Hello there, this is Alexander Hall for Viva Voce Week 10. So today in this Viva I'm going to be talking to you about the fact that I've been doing mock assessments this week, and I'll be going on about what my plan will be for next week and how I'm going to be improving what I did in my mock, so I know where I need to develop to go further and forward with my final piece of work. So firstly, I'm going to start off with this question. So, firstly, what have I done this week to prepare for my assessments? So, firstly, we've been doing a lot of mock assessments. So I've been doing my mock assessment for my musical solos, and I've been doing my mock assessment for my monologues. And alongside that, we've been just covering the last lot of our choreographies. So looking over, I hope I get it, just finalising the last little bits that we need to add, and just kind of get a full familiarity to everything so we can just go in next week and get everything up to its right level, so we're all on the right zone to getting the best choreographies we can for the show in 2 weeks' time. So firstly, what we've been doing is I did my mock assessment for soliloquy and for What Do I Need with Love, which are going to be my two musical solos that I've been working on. So soliloquy from Carousel, and also with What Do I Need with Love from Thoroughly Modern Millie. And also on Friday, I did my mock assessments for my solos of King John, which is from Richard the Bastard in Act 5, Scene 1. And then I did also The Fear of Music, which is done by Andy. So I did those monologues, and I got feedback and in general, and I was given notes and everything for that. So yeah, so I'm going to go on and talk about what I'm going to be doing to help develop for the next week. So what feedback was I given for my mock assessments, and what am I going to do to implement them for my actual assessments? So I need to work a lot on my diction, especially I need to work on my diction for both songs and for monologues. Because the thing that I do a lot of, which is something that I'm quite natural to doing, is sometimes, especially with the thing with monologues, is sometimes I can project too quickly and go up high with too much, and sometimes it comes at the wrong time. So specifically in King John, the thing that I did a lot of when I was playing the Bastard was I started shouting a bit too early and not leaving the best to last, which is something that is really important when you're doing like either a monologue or a song. You know, when you feel like the best bit that stands out the most is right at the end, that's where everyone kind of goes, wow. But if you leave that during the middle, it doesn't make it as effective. And then you lose the power that you're trying to give to either your monologue or for your song, and it does not make it more effective as a result of that. So the thing that I've been told to be really careful of is to try and work on my volume tone. So know when to get the right tone right, and to hold in that core of the voice, and hold in as much of the high note, and keep it to the point where I feel like it's the best time to get it out. So with examples like with What Do I Need with Love, the thing that because I've taken the 32 bars right at the end, so I'll be doing like, what do I need with love? I've got it good, I know I've got it bad. The thing that I'm gonna have to do a lot of is really hold that and really support the diaphragm before I go in and start going, I'm gonna do that bit, and just let it all naturally come in, and just let it be, and let it flow slowly and steadily. And yeah, just do that with soliloquy, with my diction. the thing that I probably am still struggling to do is work on, especially the consonants, some of the consonants that I'm using. So the main consonant that I struggled with for the last week, which is like this week, I was not really dictioning the part of D. So when I say, and I'm damned if he'll marry his boss's daughter, a skinny-lipped virgin with blood like water. The thing that I was doing a lot of was because I was kind of holding it, and I wasn't trying to make it sound, it didn't sound like I was saying damned, even though I'm not supposed to say that in Viva, but it's in the lyrics, so it works. But what I've got to be really careful of is making sure it's really clear. Because for a while, I think Carly told me that it didn't sound like damned, it sounded more like damned. So I need to be more like, and I'm damned, and I'm damned if he'll marry his boss's daughter, a skinny-lipped virgin with blood like water, who'll give him a peck and call it a kiss, and look in his eyes through a lorgnette. A bit like that. And just think about that as well. And also the other bit of diction that I know from What Do I Need With Love was the R's. So I remember when I say, Peter Rabbit's missing footsie, the R is not as clear. It's more like Peter Rabbit. So it sounds, but I mean I'm putting the accent to it, but it sounds it just sounds it sounds like it's the lazy way of saying it in an American accent. So, like when we're saying something like, I don't know, when you're saying, I've got to go for that. So you say that as a British person who comes from London. It's the same with when you're saying rabbit. And if you're saying it in an American accent, sometimes they'll go rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. So it sounds more like a frog. So the one thing that I'm going to try and do is really let the mouth really flow with it and let it go slowly. So think slow pace in the way I'm singing the song, so it doesn't sound like it's not that clear. So that's something I'm going to do for that. And yeah, one of the other things that I've also been told is try and keep the conversational tone as clear for my characters in my monologues, especially in King John, because the conversation, the way I was kind of trying to give that conversation, because in the monologues I'm actually speaking to as Andy, I'm speaking to Luke. I'm giving him the explanation of me killing the badger. With the bastard, he's talking to King John, and he's kind of saying to him, listen, be great. You've got to stop making yourself look like this. And, because he's trying to make himself more like the hierarchy of everyone else. So it's really important to get that across as much as I can and make sure that is clear as well. And just keep that in mind as well for that. So that's really key. So yeah, that's my feedback for that. So what are my hopes, fears, expectations for my assessments for next week? So my hopes are to get the opportunity to perform my material. So perform as much of the material that I can. So I've already been offered to sing What Do I Need With Love as part of the 2 weeks later show, which is on the Tuesday. So that's on the 4th of December, from what I can remember. Anyway, but yeah, so I've already been given that opportunity to do that song. But of course, I want to get the opportunity to do some of my monologues, especially King John, because I love that monologue from the bastard. It's kind of been one of those ones that I've felt like I've really been able to analyze really quickly the way that the bastard is feeling and how he's kind of projecting and articulating his frustration, and also trying to make himself look like he's the better example against King John, and saying that King John is just overthinking things through, and with him, he's just trying to be like the one who's trying to use his common sense, and so he's trying to make he's trying to make himself like someone with a better status to him. So I felt like, I can probably I can really get that out, because in general, I feel when I'm doing when I'm a character like that, if I actually am I can get frustrated very easily when someone is not doing a job as well as they can, and I sometimes feel like I can try and make myself look like I can do the job better. And I've never had the willpower to tell someone, "Hey, you've got to sort yourself out," but I've had the willpower of thinking that through. And because this has been like one of the best monologues to capture and to use as a way of doing that, I thought maybe that could work for me, and see if I can naturally get myself into that character zone and pull that in with one. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from. But yeah, so the fear I have is, particularly for me, is trying to really make sure I'm keeping the consistency with my monologues, particularly, because it's been a bit of a challenge for me, because the one thing I've struggled with a lot, especially with the monologues, is with the fear of music. It's a play which has not been shown to a big public, and also there are no like visual references that I can look to, and that you've got to rely very much on your visual feeling of of reading like the whole play, and really understanding it, and really taking on all the little details that you've just picked out of the whole play. And it's not like when you're watching a film, or you're watching a play in front of you, or you're watching it on tape, or you're actually watching it at a theatre, that with this, you've got to just take the book and read through it, and just make notes while you're reading through, and really understanding the concept of the character you're playing for the monologue, and really making sure that you're making your character look really realistic, and creating that without using the visual inspiration that I'm quite reliant on. So with King John, obviously, I got to watch the BBC film of King John, which was done back in 1984, which had George Costigan as the bastard, and of course there was Leonard Rossiter who played King John. And because of that, it helped me a lot more with getting myself into the bastard character, because I'm quite a visual person, and I inspire myself more from vision than I am when it comes to relying very much on this thing when you're reading, because I'm not a reader, I'm more of a visual person when it comes to that. But I think this has been a bit of a challenge for me as well, to use my weakness and trying to overcome my weakness, because this might be a situation that I'll experience again, and it's probably likely I'll probably experience it again if I want to take my career further, because there might be a point when you never know, I might be asked to work on a play that has just been written, or either there might be a point where I might be doing a play which has been published publicly, but it's not a big one, and there's no like YouTube references to it. There's no full play of it on YouTube, that you have to just be thinking about it in your head and really visualizing your own character by reading through it and learning it as you go. And the thing that this has helped me a lot with is knowing that you shouldn't just be reliant on your visual senses from watching something, that you've also got to be very reliant on your reading senses and using that in reading through. Because sometimes listening and watching is not the only thing that an actor needs or a performer needs. that sometimes you've just got to have a good vision. You've got to have vision of what you can read. And, there might be a point when I might get an assignment where I'm not allowed to use the internet. And there might be a point where I might get an assignment where they say, you're not allowed to watch a DVD, you're not allowed to watch Blu-ray, you're not allowed to go on Amazon Prime, you're not allowed to go on Netflix. You've just got to go in and learn new and get research from books instead of using the internet or using any other visual reference, that you have to be very reliant on the reading references, because they might challenge you with that, because some people are better at reading, some people are better at vision. So it's kind of like finding the balance of who is more visual and who is more of a reader. And because this is quite a big ask, sometimes it's a good way of learning that new method. So I think this has been a good challenge for me to get myself into, to take my areas a lot more seriously. So that's been my fear. So my expectation is just to try and get the best possible work that I can get from it and put on the best monologues that I can possibly do for this week, so they can all go in the right direction. And what have I done this week to prepare for the progression? So what I've done is I looked back at the King John film. So I watched it back after watching it before, when I just started reading through the monologue, and I'd just been thinking about what other monologues that the bastard does. And once I found the right monologue that would suit me the best, after I'd learnt it, I've already translated it, I wanted to get that final look back at it so I can really, really get myself really into the character. Even though I've already done my mock assessment, I wanted to give my opportunity to really watch the whole film itself, so I can just say to myself, that's what's happening there. And then once you're seeing the whole thing come together and you're seeing all the extra areas of the film, it will make it feel a little bit more like I can naturally just fulfill my way into the character to the strongest way possible. So I wanted to do that just to get myself in the zone and get myself up to the right standard there. And I looked up the actor who played the bastard, George Costigan, who is quite a versatile actor from what I researched. That he's not done much. This was one of his only real opportunities where he's played something from William Shakespeare. So he's not done so much, but the way he did it, he was really natural. It made him look like he had a lot of understanding of Shakespeare language, and that it came really natural from what I could see, and it's a really good performance that he gave as the bastard. And I only found out that he was the original Mr. Johnson, and his name is Mickey Johnston, in the Willie Russell's musical Blood Brothers, which is one of the biggest musicals that has come out from the 1980s and is still a big success. It's still going on tour. It's going on several tours around the UK. It just doesn't stop doing what it's doing. And I did not know that he was one of the original cast, so it's quite a shocker to see. And he also did John, Paul, George, Ringo, and Bert, which was another one of Willie Russell's musical shows that he had created back in 1974. So this was before George Costigan got many professional opportunities. This was one of his first real professional opportunities he had. And he was the original to Bert. So it was kind of and also I could really tell that he's had a lot of theatre experience from watching him on screen. I mean, nothing going wrong with how well he did as in the film, but I could tell that with the way he projected, the way he was clearing all his words out. It sounded very much like he's much more of a theatre actor than a screen actor. But from what I could see, it looked really impressive from what he could do. I mean, you probably don't know. Probably back in the 1984, maybe screen actors were required to project a lot, a bit like how we're required to project as stage actors, because maybe there might not have been many effective microphones, so they had to listen in. They had to really listen out from a further distance. They really had to get their voice traveling in the acoustic zone of the studio that they had to do the whole filming and all the rest. So yeah, that was really quite interesting, and researching that actor was quite a shock. There was a lot of things that I had never learnt from, that I never realised about George Costigan, which I already know now, which I'm quite surprised about. So that's quite interesting. The other thing that I did was I've also been blocking the Fear of Music monologue at home, and I was getting like guidance from my dad, because my dad's quite an actor himself. So I thought maybe if he helped me block the monologue as well as I can, and find the right timings as well, especially with, to work on my timing of when to go in and imitate the badger thrashing on the road, and working on when the timing is right for that, and also just trying to make everything a little bit more natural, because I felt like the thing that I've done a lot of with this monologue is that I've been quite rushed around, using too many hand gestures and making it look too animative, and making it not really natural. So what I've been having to do a lot of is just let be more natural in how I deliver my lines and deliver the monologue itself, and just put less into how much of my over the top work that I normally would do, and just let it be natural. Don't overcomplicate it. Just let it happen naturally. So that's something that I've had to do a lot of. But apart from that, I've been getting there with it. So it's all been going well. And that's it from me. This is Alexander Hall for Viva Voce Week 10. I hope you've enjoyed. Goodbye.